بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Jazakumullah khair for coming to the our class, the Journey of the Hereafter. Now I know this setup is a bit different because we're preparing for Ramadan and we don't have any chairs and tables anymore. I personally prefer sitting on the floor, but please feel free to grab chairs if you need to. Not everybody can sit on the ground, so feel free to grab chairs and sit on it. So last time when we were talking about the journey to the hereafter, we stopped at where? People who attended.
Remember that?
From what?
The obedience.
So we finished, okay, so we are at Yom Qiyamah, the day of standing. We were waiting, we finished that. We said we were standing for how long? 50,000 years. And each individual or each group of people, they're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dependent on their status. And so we discussed the pious, the disbelievers, and we talked about the sinners. And then afterwards, we reached another level afterwards, is that the people at that time were, the hardship that they're facing, they wanted the day of judgment to start. They wanted the hisab, the reckoning, to start. And so we talked about how they went to the different prophets. So they started to Adam alayhi salam. They told him, Adam, you're Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created by your hand, you're the first of creation, you're the father of the humans. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to intercede on our behalf for it to begin. And we went down the chain of the messengers that they reached, that they went through, until they got to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We mentioned that last time, is that right?
Yes.
And so we stopped at the Shafa'ah, and we talked about how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ana laha, I can do it. And he, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, had interceded on the behalf of the entire creations of humans for the Day of Judgment to start. And we said that this is called al-maqam al-mahmud. Right? This is the maqam al-mahmud, the praiseworthy station or the praiseworthy position. You know how in every salah we say, Allahumma bahadi ra'atam salatu qa'aman ati Muhammadan al-wasiyat wal-fadila wa'atum maqaman mahmud alladhi wa'at. So this is the maqam al-mahmud, where all the creations were praising, because he is the one, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I'll prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praise him in praises that I do not know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal to me on that day. And so sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he does that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, Ya Muhammad, irfa ra'sak, raise your head, was'al, ask, they can speak, you will be heard, was'al tu'ta, and ask, you will be given, washfa' tushaffa, and intercede, your intercession will be accepted. And so you can imagine the situation of that day, at that time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow the Prophet to intercede, and he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will intercede on behalf, and he will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to start the day of judgment. And so now we are at that position. Now because we're talking about the shafa'ah, we have to understand that there are different types of shafa'ah. So shafa'ah means what? Intercession. So on the day of judgment there will be multiple and different forms of shafa'ah. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ himself will have a huge portion of those different types of shafa'ah. So the one shafa'ah we talked about, which is called the shafa'ah al-uthma, which is the great shafa'ah, which is the maqam mahmud, the praiseworthy station. Now the second type of shafa'ah that will be given to the Prophet ﷺ is his intercession for those from his ummah who have sinned. So these are Muslims, however they have sinned. And they have entered the hellfire, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will permit him to intercede to take those who have entered the hellfire because of their sins from the Muslims to come out. So there's another type of intercession. The third type is the intercession of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that will be given to allow those who have entered Jannah to elevate to statuses above their status. Because each one of us has a status, a position in Jannah. Remember, Jannah has different levels. Is that right? Going from the lowest up to the highest. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the intercession that he would intercede to allow some individuals to rise up in ranks in Jannah. The fourth intercession is the intercession that will be given also to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to allow individuals from this ummah to enter Jannah without hisab. So those people will have no reckoning. They will immediately enter Jannah. There are few in numbers. There are but only 70,000. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among them. We're sixth or the fifth? I think we're the fifth type of shafa'ah. Fifth type of shafa'ah is the shafa'ah of the Prophet ﷺ, his intercession for people to enter Jannah. So no one will enter Jannah before the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and this will not happen until the Prophet ﷺ intercedes and asks permission for the people to enter Jannah. Now we have to mention also that the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ that was given to the Prophet ﷺ to take people from the hellfire out who were sinners is not only particular to the Prophet ﷺ. This shafa will also be given to other prophets, angels, and to also other pious individuals. They'll be allowed to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to intercede, to allow some of those Muslims who have sinned or are being punished in the hellfire to be taken out into Jannah.
So
Yes?
This is, I mean, right away or after the punishment of the hellfire?
Of course they're going to be in the hellfire being punished.
They are already punished.
They are being punished.
Then they will.
And so without their intercession, perhaps they would have been there longer. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits that intercession. Because no intercession happens except with Allah's permission. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the interceder to do that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it to happen for the person being interceded on his behalf. So these are the shafa'as. And we're going to talk about those a bit more in details, inshallah, when we talk about the Jannah and the hellfire. Now once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to intercede, now the day of judgment will happen. So this is the hisab and jaza. Hisab, which means reckoning, which includes that you'll be questioned, you'll be asked. And jaza, which means refers to the reward. And so this will include several aspects. It will include what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to His slaves, what they will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will establish in terms of evidence against them, that they have received the message and received their excuses. And also the witnesses that will come, and it includes also the weighing of our deeds and actions. So this is all in the hisab. Now a scenery from the hisab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has given us several many verses that have talked about the imagery of the hisab, the day of, like, when you're being judged, questions and all these things. And I'm just going to mention one verse from the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ وَجِيءَ بِالنَّبِيِّينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. So there's several things in this verse of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the earth will shine with the light of its Lord. وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا. We're talking about not the earth as the world we're in, but we're talking about the earth of the mahshar, the gathering, the ground of the gathering. We said earlier how it's going to change. And so it will illuminate, it will shine with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابِ. And the record of deeds has been placed. وَجِيءَ بِالنَّبِيِّينَ. And the prophets were brought forth, and the witnesses, وَالشُّهَدَاء, will be brought, and it will be judged between them. وَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. In what? In truth. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And they will not be wronged. So from these verses you can actually see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that they'll be judged with justice, with haqq. We have to understand the day of judgment, on the day of judgment, the scale, who's being the judge? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so there's nothing higher than the judgment and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything will be detailed. And the books will be brought forth. And the messengers will be brought to ask, did you deliver the message or did not? And the witnesses will be brought. Each of our angels that are witnesses upon us will be brought with each one of us. And so this is the basic scenery that we'll be having on the day of judgment when that happens. And so some of the things we'll be asked is about the amana, right? The trust that we've been trusted with. We'll be questioned about that. And whether revelation had been brought to us or not, what do we do with it? And we're going to talk about that all inshallah in details. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He mentioned also, I'm going to have to mention another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَعُرِضُ عَلَى رَبِّكَ صَفًّا. And so we present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in rows. We present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in rows. And so essentially this is the ultimate justice. Now obviously all Muslims will be asked and they'll be questioned. Yes?
Would this judgment will be done in front of everybody or individual will be?
Public.
That's very humiliating.
Public. There will be some exceptions, we'll talk about those. But a question comes, will the disbelievers be questioned and asked and their scales weighed? Will they be asked or not? Why not?
Because they don't have iman. So all the good deeds, Allah give the jaza of the good deeds in this dunya, but over there Allah says that He is going to habata amal.
That is true, but I think that has to do more with scale. So the weighing of their deeds.
But they in Surah Al it says that فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ وَزْنًا.
Good. Wazna, which means weight. We will not give their nuqimu lahum wazna, establish for them any weight in scales. But now we're talking about, okay, so I'm asking a question because I want to figure something out. Differentiate between Allah questioning us and Allah weighing our deeds. Because the questioning will come first. The asking will come first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will speak to us. And we're going to talk about these different things. And then afterwards, the books will be given, and then the scale will be placed so that we weigh our deeds. So we're talking about earlier, the hisab, the questioning. Right? Well, they will be questioned, right? It is true, they will be questioned. And yes, the question, and actions will be weighed, by the way. We're going to talk about this. They will be weighed. And there's evidence from the Quran between that. But the question is, if we know that all of their actions, there's no weight to their actions, why will they be questioned, reckoned, and also their deeds being weighed? There's several reasons that have been mentioned by many scholars, and they're deduced from verses of the Quran. The first one is really to establish proof of evidence. Proof of evidence. Because they'll be brought and they will ask, didn't I send you prophets? Didn't you receive revelation? Didn't I provide these proofs for you? What did you do with them? So establishing the proofs. And also establishing the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because a person can say, wait a second, I wasn't, this is not fair judgment. At least ask me what happened. Right? So to establish judgment. And there is nobody more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is more willing to give a chance for people to provide their excuses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, even if you look even in our worldly affairs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to look for excuses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no other person that's more beloved, there's nothing more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than to provide us or give us a chance to provide our excuses. And so this is one of the reasons why they'll be asked. The other reason He will ask them, in reality, and question them, is also includes a form of reproach and a criticization and rebuke. When somebody does something wrong, this happens with our kids a lot. Right? Do you not scold them? Is that right? Parents, do you scold your kids? Habib, I know your kids are here. So I won't ask you today. But we all do that, right? Because it's a form of reproach, right? Do you know what you did? Why did you do this? Right? It's a sensation that we as kids we did not like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all creations, who has given and provided proofs and evidence and has sent every excuse for us to be guided, will ask those disbelievers on the Day of Judgment, why did you not do it? And it's a form of reproach and criticization. The other third reason is that we have to understand that the disbelievers are liable. They're liable for all the actions they're supposed to be fulfilling. So for example, they'll be questioned about prayers. Is that clear? They are liable because Islam is the final religion, which means they'll be questioned about the fasting, there'll be questions about their prayers, there'll be questioned about the tawheed, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there'll be questioned about this. And so, I see confused, people are confused.
No, I mean, if they are not the tawheed, yeah, they will be asked, but if they didn't believe in the first place, then...
قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. One of the reasons, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. What placed you in Saqar, the hellfire? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. Right? We were not from the ones who were praying. وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. And we did not feed the poor. So they are liable. They'll be punished for it. But differentiate between the judgment in the hereafter and what they're responsible for in this world. When we say that the disbelievers are not, the condition for your acceptable worship is to become a Muslim, which means the disbelievers are not required to pray. This comes into play when they become Muslims. They don't have to make up anything that passed. This is where it matters. But on the Day of Judgment, they'll be asked about it. And so this is one other. A fourth reason I'm going to mention also very quickly is because they have to be asked and they have their skills to be weighed, because similar to how there are different ranks with believers, there are different ranks with disbelievers. It would not be fair to judge a person who might be, yes, a disbeliever, but has done some charity work, who's not aggressive with others, who actually likes to have good manners and etiquettes, to treat him like an individual who, for example, made it his duty to fight the prophets and hunt them down and kill them. You cannot give those the same level, is that right? And so this is why it requires that they be questioned and there needs to be weighed. Because in Jahannam, we'll talk about that also, there will be different ranks of punishments in Jahannam, from the lowest to the worst. And so it would not be fair to judge them based on the same scale. So they have to have different different levels.
So the disbelievers also will have different levels of...
Yes, different. So they say Jahannam darakat, which means Jahannam comes in lowering levels. Jannah darajat, which means in increasing levels. So the higher you go, the better it is. Right? You start at a minimum. So the higher you go, the better it is. Jahannam is the opposite. The further you go down, the worse it is. So there are levels in Jahannam. Alright, so yes?
I have always have this question in my head that disbelievers can simply point finger at us because we are living there. They never told us the right thing.
Okay, they could try to make an excuse. That is true.
So, I mean, Allah is just. He will say, yeah, you didn't.
Would it be accepted or not accepted? That's a different thing. Now, once again, I know this gets asked all the time. You have to remember this scale on the day of judgment. It's justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow them to provide their excuses. So yes, we have a hadith. The person will say, oh Allah, your message came and I was not sane. Your message came when I was old and feeble and didn't understand. Your message came when I was young and I died young. And so what would happen to those? Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. And so they will have their own tests. But now we're talking about everybody generally. There's always exceptions. But just generally what's going to happen, the main scenery. Alright, so what are the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be asking those Nabi? Remember, this is the time of asking questions. So this is before we receive our books, before they're weighed, we will be asked questions. So what are we going to be asked about? Prayers, good. What are we prayers?
All the obligations.
First important thing is what?
5 things.
Kufr and shirk, iman.
Tawheed.
Tawheed, that's the first thing. So this is the greatest thing that the individual will be asked about. Their iman, their kufr and their disbelief. Specifically, the disbelievers will be mostly questioned about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Where is it that those you have been worshipped in association with Allah? He will ask them that question, like he's questioning them. Where are your, like يَوْمَ يُنَادِيهِمْ فَيَقُولُ أَيْنَ شُرَاءَكُمْ الَّذِينَ كُنْتُمْ تَدَّعُونَ. Where are the partners you associate? Where are they? Bring them forth. So this is a form of question. So we'll be asked about that. And we'll also be asked about what have we responded in terms to the messengers. وَيَوْمَ يُنَادِيهِمْ فَيَقُولُ مَاذَا أَجَبْتُمْ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. The day he will call them and he will ask, what did you, like أَجَبْتُمْ, which means how did you respond to the mursaleen, the messengers. This also, by the way, it happens. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the grave, you send the angels, they'll ask us, who's your Lord? Who's your angel? Right? Who's your messenger? What's your belief? Is that right? And so these will be questioned. Where's your Lord? Who's your Lord? Where are your associates? How did you respond to the messengers? Did you obey them? Did you not obey them? Now we'll also be questioned about what we performed in our world. Our deeds and our actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَرَبِّكَ لَنَسْأَلَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. فَرَبِّكَ, by your Lord. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by himself. By your Lord, we will ask, actually he's talking about Prophet. He's saying, he swears by your Lord. So the Lord of the Prophet, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will ask all of them. Right? نَسْأَلَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. On what they used to act. And so this is important for us to think about this. Right? Every time we do something, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Right? So are we doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? or not? Are we doing it in accordance with the Prophet ﷺ's sunnah or not? Is this permissible or is it not permissible? Is it mandatory? Is it recommended? Is it just permissible? Is it disliked? Is it prohibited? We always have to question ourselves. Now this is more important in the time of Ramadan that's coming up. We're a bit more conscious about this. So it helps us a bit more to ask about these things. So we asked about our questions, like our actions, what we did, whether it's good or bad. And so we know many of the hadiths. We also, this is very famous. The hadith of Prophet ﷺ when he says, لا تزول قدم عبد لا تزول قدم عبد, that the feet of a person, abd, which is slave of Allah, will not move from a spot. The spot of questioning on the Day of Judgment will not move until he gets asked about what? His actions. Well, actually, we mentioned, right? عن عمره فيما أفناه, on his life span, what did he spend it in? Where did he waste it in? أفناه, which means he wasted it in. Your entire lifespan, you'll be asked about عمره, your life, what did you spend it in? Where did you waste it in? وعن عمل علمه ماذا عمل به, and his knowledge, what did he do with it? This is very important, by the way, because when we attain knowledge, the point of knowledge is what? To put it on the shelf, to have degrees, to apply it. Good. Knowledge that is not applied is useless. It's not knowledge. Many of the pious predecessors, they would say هتف العلم بالعمل. فإن لم يجبه ارتحل. هتف, which means call. هتف العلم بالعمل. علم, knowledge calls for amal, actions, performance. If it does not respond, knowledge will go away. And it's very important. A lot of times, by the way, many of these scholars of hadith, they would remember the hadith because they act upon it. And so one of the ways we preserve our religion, the information we get, we need to act upon it. But also, the interesting thing is we can never act without having knowledge. This is why Imam Bukhari said, Al-ilmu qabla al-amal. Knowledge is before action. This is why a lot of times when the scholars mention that there is a minimum amount of knowledge that is mandatory upon all of us. We have to go seek it. Not take it from our cultures, not take it from our parents. We reach a certain age, we go and we study. Sit with the sheikh, do whatever we have to do. Attend school, classes. A minimum amount of knowledge we have to gain. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us about our knowledge, how did we act upon it? وَعَنْ مَالِهِ, and your wealth. مِنْ أَيْنَ اكْتَسَبَهُ, how did you earn it? وَفِيمَا أَنْفَقَهُ, and where did you spend it? Right? This is very important. Because quite often, we spend things in ways that are not the best and most suitable, and so we have to be careful about it. Money, there's two questions. How did you earn it? And where did you spend it? And then وَعَنْ جِسْمِهِ فِيمَا أَبْلَى, and then your body, how did you utilize it? Right? Your entire body. How did you use your eyesight? How did you use your ears, your limbs, your tongue? Everything that you have will be questioned. Your strength that you have, what did you use it for? Your legs, your feet, what did you walk to with them? And so all these will be questioned about it. And another hadith, so this one was the first one is by Barza al-Aslami. The second hadith is from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He added another one. So he mentioned, he said 4. He said the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تزول قدما, both feet of the believer, of the Ibn Adam, the son of Adam, will not be moved from their position on the Day of Judgment, حتى يسأل عن خمس, until he's asked about 5 things. He said, عن عمره فيما أفناه, on his lifespan, where did he waste his life? And we mentioned that. But then, عن شبابه فيما أبلاه, in his youth, what did he spend his youth in? Where did he waste youth in? What's the difference?
We have a lot of attraction.
So this one, he's talking about lifespan, but this one is specifically about youth. Why?
You have a lot of things to do instead of your...
No, not restriction.
The golden ages of strength and the ability to...
Golden age, I think this is debate what culture you're in. In this culture, the golden age is what?
You are stronger.
Is what?
Strength.
No, golden age in this country is what?
18.
The golden years is what?
From 18.
La, 60 and above. In this culture, the golden years are 60 and above. This is when you retire, you enjoy your retirement, you have fun.
You have the strongest temptation.
Okay. Youth, your younger age, and by the way, youth is up until the age what? 44, ya Sheikh, mashallah. I think I like that opinion. I'm happy with that opinion. Usually they tell you
30.
some opinions 40 and under, and some is 33, and until from puberty until 33, some until 40. But there's a quality to that age. It's an age where you don't have that much responsibility yet. You have strength, you have vigor, you have strong-mindedness. And so it is qualities that can be used in different venues. Above that, it's a bit of an age of settlement, maturity, right? Turning towards weakness. And so essentially that age is important because you're going to be, a lot of actions happen, a lot of things happen. It's the peak of your time, that time age. And so you'll be specifically asked about it, how to utilize and use it. So that's one difference between that one and the other hadith. And then Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, وَعَنْ مَالِهِ مِنْ أَيْنَ اكْتَسَبَهُ وَمِنْ فَأَنْفَقَهُ. His wealth, where did he spend it and how did he earn it? وَمَاذَا عَمَلَ فِي عِلْمٍ. And what did he do in his knowledge? So that only difference between this hadith and the other one is specifically actually asking about the youth. But it's also because at the age we feel that we're invincible. Okay, that nothing can stop us. The Superman syndrome. Right? We believe that we're strong, we can live forever, and we can do things. And so we question about that. So that's one of the questioning. Now we also be questioned about النعيم. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Verily you'll be questioned and you'll be asked about pleasures. Right? The pleasures you were given. So what is this talking about?
All the blessings.
So what are you going to be asked about then?
All the blessings.
All the blessing,
Such as?
the water we are drinking, the air we are breathing.
Water, food.
Food,
Oh yeah, I'm asking you because most people when they think of pleasures, they don't think of
health.
The simple things.
They don't think of food and water. They think pleasures what?
The car.
The big
luxury
house.
you're like,
The car,
Family.
not just family, the extended family, right? They think of all these things. But in reality, the Prophet ﷺ had indicated, no, it is actually less than that. When the Prophet ﷺ had one time walked out hungry out of his house, and then he ran into Abu Bakr, and then he ran into Umar, and they all came out of their house because they're hungry, and they told him, ﷺ, let's go to the garden of so-and-so. I'm just skipping the hadith very quickly, and they sat down, and he had given them some of the dates, the host gave them some of the dates while he would cook for them some food, and they were drinking from the cold water. He told them, Wallahi, this is the na'im we'll be asked about. This beautiful, cool water. We sometimes don't realize this. We don't think about this. But everything that is given to us from a bounty, this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will be asked about it. Right? Just the water that we're drinking. That we have a shelter on top of our head is enough. That we have clothes to wear is enough, let alone that we have different attires. We all have closets, right? Why do we need closets? Because so many clothes we have. We have a lot of clothing, don't we? Realistically, we need that much clothing? No, some people don't have only an article or two of clothing. We have so much, mashallah, it's a blessing. We don't sometimes comprehend this. So the question is then, following that, what will he ask us about that? When he asks about this, what's the question then? We're going to ask about these blessings, right? And by the way, these blessings are multiple. وَإِن تَعُدُّ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you try to count the blessings of Allah, you will not be able to enumerate them. Even if you try. If you reach a limit, trust me, there are things you're not aware of. How many times, years later, we find out that something that we deprived Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give us was actually a blessing. We find that truly is a blessing 20 years later. There are many things we're unaware of. We just don't recognize it. And so it is, you cannot enumerate them. But what will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask us about?
being grateful, appreciative.
Are we grateful? Are we appreciative? Do we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Okay. This is why the Prophet ﷺ had said in a beautiful hadith, he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَيَرْضَى مِنَ الْعَبْدِ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ الْأَكْلَ فَيَحْمَدَهُ عَلَيْهِ أَوْ يَشْرَبُ الشَّرْبَ فَيَحْمَدَهُ عَلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just content, he's happy with the slave that if he eats, right, al-akla, the bite or the meal, and he would thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it, for it. Or that he would take the sip of water, drink it, that he would thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. But thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, questioning the slave for the bounties that he has been given, is that truly if he had thanked Allah for this ni'mah or not. Did we thank him? And part of thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not to utilize it in whatever displeases him. And that includes our eyesight, our ears, our limbs, everything around us. That we not utilize this in something that would displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. part of thanking is directing that to what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The nice thing, even as human beings, we don't accept if we give somebody something that they would use it against us or to harm us. Is that right or wrong? Yes? When we give even, I don't like using this example, but it happens. When we give our children something and they misuse it, what do? We take it. And we think that this is justice. Right? This is a privilege we gave you. You abuse that privilege. You do not deserve it. We take it back. Now I want you to think, we need to think actually, we have to do this, of what Allah gave us. And if we misused it or not. And the fact that Allah still gave it to us and kept it with us, in fact, is a blessing. It's an additional blessing. Right? And the fact that we are able to recognize this is a blessing. And to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it is a blessing that deserves another thanking. And it becomes continuous. And in reality, we're unable to truly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessings enough. But Allah just accepts that we say, Alhamdulillah. Right, this is from mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, now, we'll also be questioned about, when I mentioned this, our oaths that we have taken, the promises that we made. We'll be asked about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Fulfill your oaths, your covenants, because you will be questioned about it at the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also ask about our hearing, our إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ, that the hearing and the sight, and fu'ad, which is referring to the heart, the actions of the heart, كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. You'll be questioned about that. So we'll be questioned about what did you say? What were you listening to? All these things will be involved in the process. Alright, now that being said, the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us and make us accountable for is what? Prayers. Prayers, that's it. The first thing that we ask about is prayers. The 5 daily prayers. Are they complete? Are they not complete? And if they are good in standing, then everything else falls in place. If they're not, then everything else is paused and it's not. The Prophet ﷺ said, "In the awwal ma yahasabu bihi al-abd," the first thing that the abd, the slave, will be judged about, reckoned with for Yawm al-Qiyam, day of judgment, min amalihi, from his actions, salatu, his prayers. فَإِنْ صَلَحَتْ, if it's in good standing, فَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ وَأَنْجَحَ, then he is successful and he'll be a winner. وَإِنْ فَسَدَتْ, if it's ruined, خَابَ وَخَسِرْ, then he is ruined and he's a loser. فَإِنْ انْتَقَصَ مِنْ فَرِيضَتِهِ شَيْءٍ, if there's something missing from his obligations, then what happens? If you're missing something, what happens? If they're not complete, what happens? Good. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to انظروا, right? Look, هل لعبدي, is there for my slaves من تطوع, from any extra, تطوع, which means nawafil they will do, extra acts. فيكمل بها من تقص, it will supplement, right? It will patch, it will fix, it will add to what has been missing from the فريضة. ثم يكون سائر عمله على ذلك. The rest of his actions will be as similar.
So this is from the nafil of the prayer.
Any nafil.
Any nafil, not just prayer?
No. If we're talking about prayers, it's nafil of prayer, obviously.
Yeah, okay, so I mean from the siyam, so it's nafil of siyam. I mean from everything, it's the nafil
Yes,
of the same
of
nature.
its equivalence. That is true. Alright, now when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's questioning us and asking us, by the way, we will be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be questioning individuals in different ways. It will happen in different ways. And I'm going to mention, some of them, for example, let's mention 3 of them quickly. I'm going to mention Imam al-Nawawi when he mentioned, because sometimes it's a bit confusing when people talk about al-ard and niqash al-hisab. Al-ard, which means your deeds will be presented. There's a presentation. You will all be presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The believer, his deeds will be presented. And there's the niqash, which means the excessive questioning. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man nuqisha udhib." Who must ever be questioned will be punished. Whoever be questioned will be punished. However, the other one, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. So whoever receives his book with his right hand, then he will be yuhasab, which means what? Questioned or asked. Okay. Hisaban yasira, a light, easy way questioning. So the Prophet ﷺ said, ذَلِكَ الْعَرْض. This is the presentation. So we're going to talk about that inshallah. So that category will be presentation. Another category, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ نُوقِشَ الْحِسَابِ عُذِّبْ. If there will be detailed questioning. Okay? There's a difference in the styles. This person will be punished. Either he'll be like, عُذِّب, which means he will, actually عُذِّب, which means be tormented. He'll be tormented. Either figuratively speaking, in reality, which means that they will be tormented in the hellfire, but it also might include they'll be tormented because you can imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excessively questioning you. What is your situation? This is really a torment at that time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going to mention about, first of all, the munaqashat al-mu'mineen, al-mura'in, sorry, the munaqasha, which means the art, talking with the, so there's munaqasha, and ard and mu'ataba. We're going to talk about this, okay? So munaqasha, which means questioning, discussing with you. I'm going to take in details. And then there's al-ard, presentation, and there's al-mu'ataba. Mu'ataba is almost like, you know when you have a good relation with somebody, and they did something that is wrong, they wronged you, and then you sit them down and you quietly talking to them, right? Why did you do this? Do you know it was wrong? You actually, you had wronged me, it made me feel this way, and so forth. That manner of talking, this is called mu'ataba. No, this is mu'ataba. This is different, right? Itab, this is usually done between one who loves another person, who cares for another person. This is itab. It has an aspect of scolding, but not a rough form of scolding. A very subtle, aspect of it. To point out the errors that you have made. Listen, you did this wrong. Okay, so that's matter. So there's 3 levels. So we'll talk about mura'in, right? Munaqasha. Munaqasha, which means the questioning. Mura'in are those who do things, how, for what reason? Showing off. Good. So their act of worship is not towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is just to show off. And this is, the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned this in a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَنْزُلْ الْعِبَادِ لِيَقْضِي بَيْنَهُم. If it's a day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would come to judge between the people. وَكُلُّ أُمَّةٍ جَثِيَّةٍ. Every nation is on their knees because of this, the situation was going on, the horror of the position, and just at terrifying moments they're going to be on their knees. فَأَوَّلُ مَا يَدْعُ بِهِ رَجُلٌ جَمَعَ الْقُرْآنِ. The first he will call is an individual who has gathered the Qur'an, memorized the Qur'an. So obviously this person is a what? A Muslim. Is that right? جَمَعَ الْقُرْآنِ وَرَجُلٌ قُتِلَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And a person who is killed on the battlefield for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَرَجُلٌ كَثِيرٌ مَنْ. A person who is wealthy. So the 3 individuals, we heard this hadith before, but just a good reminder. And he will tell to the person who recites the Qur'an, who's memorized it and recites it, he will ask him, أَلَمْ أُعَلِّمْكَ مَا أَنزَلْتَ عَلَى رَسُولِي. Did I teach you what I have revealed to my messenger? And he will answer and say, yes. So you see, this is the question. Okay? And then you say, yes, my Lord. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَاذَا عَمِلْتَ فِيمَا عَلِمْتَ. What did you do with what you have learned? And so he would say, كُنْتُ أَقُومُ بِهِ أَنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ وَأَنَاءَ النَّهَارِ. I used to stand up at night and during the day in reciting it. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell him, you lied. However, and the angels will say, you lied. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, but you wanted that it would be said that so-and-so a person is a qari. He's a reciter. And he was said. So this individual, may Allah protect us from this. And we have to always watch our intentions. Why we're doing certain things. This person had memorized the Qur'an and recited it. But in the end, why was he doing it? So we call it Qari Furan, Qari. Right? And this is a title that's usually quite often used in the South Asian continent. Right? Qari Abdul Basit, right? Qari, Muhammad, Qari, whatever. It's kind of funny. They also use the word Hafiz. I remember I got confused one time I was introduced. This is Hafiz, what was his name? This is Hafiz Azhar, right? Well, assalamu alaikum, how are we doing Hafiz? And he looks at me, he's like, no, my name is Azar. I'm like, I thought they just told me your name is Hafiz Azar. He's like, no, Hafiz because I memorized the Quran. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Like, no, I just, it was my bad, right? I know they use this term, but I just didn't realize at that time. But people introduce others as Hafiz, right? And they want that. We have to be careful with this subtlety. It's very important. Okay? And so this individual will be, said, no, it's not true, it was said. So really, what reward did he get? Nothing. Because what he wanted in this world, he got. And that's it. May Allah protect us from this. And then the person who was killed on the battlefield for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would be asked, ماذا قتلت, right? Why would you get killed? So he would say, I was ordered with striving, doing jihad for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for your sake. And so I fought until I died. And so it will be told to him that you have lied. And the angels will say you have lied. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him you want it to be said, right? A person is brave. Look at it. It's such bravery. Right? And it was said. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like when he was saying the hadith, like when he hit on his knees, right? And then he mentioned, these three, will be the first people who will be burnt in the hellfire. Now the third person obviously was the person who was with wealth. Another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, did I give you wealth? He will acknowledge it. He say yes. He'll say, what do you do with it? He said, I'll spend it for your sake, left, right, and center. You said, no, you're a liar. You spent it so that you'll say that you are generous, and it was said. So this is an example of excessive questioning, right? So the questioning might not necessarily only happen to believers, it might happen to the believers. And if you're questioned, you will be punished. Alright, now, the ard, right? The ard, which is presentation. Okay. Now this is made for the Muslims also. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will present the deeds to the believers. And essentially what this involves, the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned in this hadith, and it's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring yudni al-mu'min, he'll bring closer the believer. فَيَضَعُ عَلَيْهِ كَنَفَهُ. And so he will conceal kanafah, which means the sit or the concealment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he will conceal this abd. So why is Allah concealing him? We'll find out in a bit. So Allah will conceal him and He will tell him, do you know this sin? Alright? He'll just tell him, do you know this sin? And so the slave will say, yes, my Lord. And so he will make him admit all these sins until he sees or he realizes or he thinks that he is going to be destroyed, demised. Because all these things are coming up. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, I concealed it in this world. Now this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also on the Day of Judgment will conceal it. Now this is done in front of everybody. Okay? So some people will all be judged publicly. However, some Allah will conceal, others will not. And so this is the believer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will conceal, and He'll tell him, I concealed it in this world. And so I will forgive it, I'll forgive you for it today. And so he will be given his book of good deeds. And however, the disbelievers and munafiqun, right, the people in public will tell them, هؤلاء الذين كذبوا على ربهم, those ones who belied, they belied على ربهم, upon their Lord. ألا لعنة الله على الظالمين, may the curse be on the ones who have transgressed. So you see over here, ones will be completely in public, humiliated, others will be concealed. So this is the art. Right? So once again, this is still before the books and before the scale. Yes?
The sins which were excused in this world also will be asked, questioned.
So what do you mean by that?
So some sins we do, we ask for forgiveness in this world. And forgive.
So inshallah, hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us for it. And if it's forgiven, that's it, done. But you have to understand, unfortunately, sometimes we might have committed sins that we don't know about. And so we always have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive our sins that we know and those that we do not know. Alright, now the last one we're going to mention today is the mu'ataba of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is called mu'ataba, which we're talking about. Now this has to do with also believers, but they have shortcomings. A bit of a shortcoming, and this is a bit more of a bit of a harsher kind of like, well, I shouldn't say that. It's mu'ataba. It's a very light scolding. I don't know how to, I really can't find the word to translate in English.
Counsel?
Friendly, it's a friendly.
Counseling?
Not counseling.
Too late for counseling now.
But you understand the meaning, right? When somebody's beloved to you, they kind of hurt your feelings, there's something wrong, you sit them down, you say quietly, tell them, you know what, you did this, why did you do that, stuff like that. And so this is the same manner. In Arabic, this is called mu'ataba.
Just to realize them to...
Yes. And so this will happen, right, on the Day of Judgment for people who have shortcomings. And so this is a hadith mentioned, in Sahih Muslim. Abu Hurairah said, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell to a certain individual on the Day of Judgment, Ya ibn Adam, O son of Adam, maridtu falam ta'idni, right? I have gotten sick and you did not visit me. And so the person would say, obviously, Ya Rabb, O my Lord, how would I visit you, right? And you are the Lord of all creations. It doesn't work. You don't get sick. How does this work? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, did you not know, that I did not know that my slave, certain so, had gotten sick and you did not visit him? Did you not know that if you would have visited him, you would have found me there? Right? You would have found me there. Of course, we're not talking about physically over here. Right? This is different. So you would have found me there. And then he would say, Yabna Adam, I asked you for food and you did not feed me. And so he would ask him, oh Lord, how do I feed you? And you're the Lord of the creations. And so you would say, didn't you know that this, my slave and so, had asked you for food and you did not feed him? Did you not know that if you had fed him, you would have found me there? You would have found me there with the reward, perhaps, right? With accepting, your deeds. Or, with helping you because you're helping the fellow, Muslim or fellow brother in Islam. And then he would tell him, Ya O son of Adam, I asked you for water and you did not give me water. And so he'd ask him, oh Allah, how would I give you water and you're the Lord of all creations? He would tell him, my slave had asked you for water and you did not give him. Did you not know that if you had given him water, you would have found me there? So this is the mu'ataba, right? It might not necessarily, Wallahu a'lam, be these are shortcomings. Okay? So this will be a sort of mu'ataba. So this will be in the hisab. Now, once this happens, the hisab is done. The next stage would happen is that, because now will be questions, or excuses have been presented, will be asked, do you receive the message, not receive the message. Now we receive our books. Right? This is the moment we receive our books, whether it is with the right hand or the left hand behind our shoulders. Each to his status, inshallah, next time. And I'm going to take my time going through this. Inshallah, we're going to continue this through Ramadan, because I really believe this is one of the best things we can do in Ramadan to elevate our iman, because in the end, we're all seeking Jannah, right? So we're going to continue with this, inshallah. So next time, we're going to talk about the books, the weighing of the scale, and then maybe perhaps going through the Sirat and afterwards. We'll take a 5-minute break.